This is a Politico University of Maryland poll. It was published Wednesday. Let me read you this quote. This is about whether or not we're a Christian nation. A clear majority of Republicans, 57%, said they don't believe declaring the U.S. a Christian nation will be constitutional. But when asked whether they favor or oppose declaring the U.S. a Christian nation, an even larger share of Republicans, 61%, supported doing so. Fewer than 1 in 5 Democratic voters supported declaring Christianity the official religion of the United States, and overall 62% of Americans opposed doing so, according to Politico. Unsurprisingly, nearly 80% of Republicans, more than half of Democrats who describe themselves as a born-again or evangelical Christian, supported declaring the U.S. a Christian nation. I've got to get your thoughts on this because, look, we need to decipher, and you'll go into this, decipher the difference. I mean, we fought a war against this, all right? We're not saying we want there to be a proclamation that Christianity is the official religion of America. I mean, do these people really think that? I mean, we fought a war against exactly what the Brits were doing over there. However, to say that this is a Christian nation based on Judeo-Christian principles is much different than everything I just laid out in the former. Your thoughts?
Yeah, and it boils down to the education of history, and that's why we have the division of the 1619 Project. If we can separate our history from, if we can separate our children's history from our own history, we separate the nation. And the 1619 Project has no scholarship whatsoever. It's fantasy. But to realize that the freedoms that we possess here in the United States, where we represent less than 4% of the world's population, yet we're responsible for more patents, Nobel Peace Prize winners, more symphonies. I mean, greatest inventions. You ride in an elevator, invented by an American. Enjoy air conditioning, invented by an American. Fly in an airplane, invented by an American. Enjoy the internet, invented by an American, not Al Gore.
I thought you said Al Gore. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I said not Al Gore.
Okay, you did.
And that's 4% of the world's population. It's not because we have greater natural resources, because Canada has far more land mass and natural resources, as does South America. We were given something that the rest of the world wasn't given, and that was a bottom-up government where the accountability was between man and God. And so when they established the 3 branches of government, and they established in the preamble of the Constitution, we the people of the United States of America, in order to form a more perfect union, they established the sovereign of the nation in those first 3 words, we the people. All of our elected officials govern by our consent, and they're constrained by the 7 articles of the Constitution and the 27 amendments. The First Amendment is critical, absolutely critical. 150 years of precedent that was overridden by Hugo Black, who was a KKK member and was put there by FDR as a political payback because he supported the New Deal. Terrible justice. And it was Everson versus the Board of Education. And on that decision, those first 16 words that used to define freedom of religion then became freedom from religion, and we became a secular progressive state. The freedom of religion. Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion, nor prohibiting the free exercise thereof. For the first 1,000 years of recorded history, a nation says that you will not get between God and man. And that is so critical because only a moral people can govern a republic. It is a very fine line when you have freedom, because without the moral law, because as we know, the law is the wise restraints that make men free. If there's no moral law established to that, if there's no God we're accountable to, then the law becomes a weapon of man to enslave man, not set him free. And Christ has come to set the captives free. They did not want a national religion. They didn't want to enforce Christianity. That was the Inquisition. We weren't a part of that. But they recognized 4 times in our birth certificate, God, that we are accountable to him and accountable to each other. And from the moral law comes civil law. So the 10 Commandments would be on the facade of almost every federal building. You don't steal, you don't lie, you don't murder, you don't covet, you don't commit adultery, you honor God, you keep the Sabbath day holy. All of these principles were so that we understood we're accountable to God and accountable to each other. I don't know the time constraints we have, but
I've got a couple more minutes. Go ahead. I got a couple more minutes.
It'd be important to note that the very first constitutional republic was not America. It was Israel. 3 to 5 million Jews enslaved in Egypt crying out to God for freedom. An 80-year-old man is sent as a deliverer, contends with the tyrant Pharaoh, says, let my people go. And the tyrant says, who is God that I should obey him? Doubles the brick output and reduces the materials, and basically is saying, I'll show you who God, that I'm greater than God.
Yeah.
And so finally, after the 10 plagues, he relents, lets the Israelites go, but knows he's losing his slave economy, sends his army after them. They're drowned in the Red Sea. And then here's the great miracle. Their shoes don't wear out. Their clothes don't wear out. Manna is provided every morning, water, all those things. But the greatest miracle, Moses goes up on Mount Sinai, receives the Decalogue. This is the Constitution, the moral law. The first 5, our relationship with God, second 5, relationship with each other, comes down into a nation that is in debauchery, thanks to Aaron. He instructs the children and places that law in the center of the community, and 3 to 5 million Jews live together for 40 years without a police force or a standing army. And from that comes the Pentateuch, which are civil laws. Our founders understood that. Unlike Sharia law, you don't enforce this on the population, but if the pulpits aren't proclaiming it, and this is the critical nature of the First Amendment. First, you have the freedom of religion, then the freedom of the press, then the freedom of speech, and the freedom to peaceably assemble. The pulpits must proclaim freedom and truth. The press must report the truth. The people must live it. That is the governing principle that protects a constitutional republic. If we forget who we are and we separate our children with a new history that has no academic relevance whatsoever, we lose the republic.